Howdy, darling. How are you doing? I did a little bit of a pre-shuffle, so I'll save you some time. You can tell me if this is your story right off the bat here. All right. I'm connected to a collective of energy where you don't really have too much to your name anymore. It feels as if that you have been stripped bare. I even connected to this energy a little bit beforehand, where I got the sense of like a Dante's Inferno. Right? And I think I'm thinking about the right things, where it's like the 7 layers of hell, but it seems as if like replace Dante. Is it Dante a person? It's in the Bible, right? So I think it's Dante. Replace Dante with whoever your name is, right? Replace Dante with Scorpio. Replace Dante with Leap. Whoever you are, right? That's what you've been going through, right? Now, as I was saying before, I felt as if this is a collective that I was connecting to for the past like couple years. I feel like that you've been going through your own personal Dante's Inferno there, and you've been stripped bare. You are somebody that at this point in time, it feels as if your next couple of decisions that you make, and the decisions that you have been making for the past month, because I'm doing this in August, at the end of August, I believe it's the 26th of August actually. But this is timeless, of course. This general reading is always going to be timeless. The message resonates, darling, and this is 2045, and it's for you still, right? But you're at a point in time in your life, and the moves you've been making recently, being shown like in like the circus or like the talent shows where they show you someone like juggling a bunch of plates that are spinning, being shown that symbology there. So to me, it's like every action that you've been making recently has been it's been extremely important for you in terms of like how it pans out, where this path is taking you, because of a lot of the changes that are happening for you. I feel as if you have been in this point to where you have been deserving of a win for quite some time because of that personal Dante's Inferno that you've been going through. You needed a little bit of a win here. All right. I won't be surprised with this Fool energy if it's taking you a while, as I say the Fool and I pull the Judgment. If it's taking you a while to find your familiar. All right, now this could quite literally be a familiar, like an animal there. But I also feel as if I usually perceive the Fool energy, the one that's accompanying the Fool, as like your spirit guide, as I do hear in specific here, where it's like enough of like the spiritual aspect, you're wanting something more of substance, more of a physical standpoint here. It's one thing to have a spiritual dog with you, but it's different than having like an actual physical dog there with you, right? So to me, I do get this message where it's not as if perhaps you doubt your spiritual team or you struggle with necessarily connecting to them too much. It's more about like, it almost feels as if like you are wondering if this is even if your spiritual team isn't even listening to you, if they're angry at you or whatever, because it's been a while since you've seen like a request that you put out there has like come into fruition there. I also hear as well where it's like, okay, if my spirit team is real, then why did I have to go through that Dante's Inferno there? You might still be going through like the last bits of it there. I don't think so. I mean, it's hot, honey. So it feels like an inferno. There might be an 8th layer. I don't know where you're at in the world, but I'm on the West Coast in the States in Seattle, honey. And so it's been so hot. So it feels like my own personal hell as well there. But to me, it's like it's not as if you necessarily doubt them, but you're just like, all right, now, is this how it really works? Because it's like anything that you wanted, anything you've been trying to manifest, it's being like probably crickets for you, right? You have the King of Pentacles coming in here. I do feel as if the next couple of steps that you take, you're going to really see your spiritual team show up in a very big way in terms of what you are building. Right? King of Pentacles is all about building that empire, darling, right? So it doesn't necessarily have to be about a business. It also could just simply be like what it is that you go home to, right? I do feel like the next couple of decisions that you make really feed into that empire as that King of Pentacles. So what I want to be suggesting for you before we get back into the spiritual aspect of the message is I want you to be thinking about your moves right now as the King of Pentacles, because you might be, just because of you considering you've been in that Dante's Inferno, I'll take a shot every time I say it, you might be in this place of being in so much of a survival mode, where being in survival mode is very different from having to be in a King of Pentacles mode, right? Where the King of Pentacles is thinking about long-term investments, what they do today, they're thinking about how it's going to benefit and grow for them 30 days from now, a year from now, right? Whereas when you're in survival mode, you're thinking about not even tomorrow, you're thinking about in that hour. You're not even thinking about the next hour, you're thinking in that hour, what do I need to do to make sure I'm staying afloat? Right? And I feel like you've been in this place for a while, because it's like, again, while you've been perusing through your Dante's Inferno there, it's been really hard for you to like move forward with anything. It's hard for you to like grow anything, and You know, part of the reason why you've been stripped bare is because it's like you haven't really had time to gather any type of resource, because it's like one thing after another there. What I want to be suggesting for you, friend, especially if you're wanting your spiritual team to show up in a big way for you, as I do feel like they are in the scope of the King of Pentacles, right? So usually it's not really we'll talk about your social life in specific in a hot biscuit, but like usually with the King of Pentacles, you see this manifest as business ventures. You see this manifest as financial ventures usually, right? You see this as like your home space, just like your foundation of like what you build your life off of, right? Doesn't, you know, your creatives, your social, like that foundational energy there. All right. And I feel as if when we're going into September time, all the seeds that you needed to plant for your life to grow to that solid foundation will be planted. All right. And so I don't know if you're in this place right now where you're feeling self-conscious about being like, all right, where am I going with my life? Maybe you're going through a quarter life, maybe there's a crisis there, but I like the general direction of where you're going. And again, like I do feel like your spiritual team is going to show up in a huge way when it comes to tending to those seeds as that King of Pentacles. All right. So let's pull some clarifying cards. Actually, let's use a different tarot deck here to clarify it, to get into this here. But I keep on hearing where it's like, you may have felt as if your spiritual team has forgotten about certain aspects that you wanted to develop, or you might even be self-conscious and be like, all right, should I be thinking about something more selfless, or trying to manifest something more selfless, or anything of that nature? Or, I don't know, just because it feels to me like I'm hearing like a lot of like what feels as if like unanswered prayers, right? Three of Cups coming in here. Now, usually the Three of Cups is celebrating some extremely good news. You have that Nine of Wands afterwards, and then the Queen of Swords, and this is coming up in the reverse. I do read reversals, darling. I just don't feel the need to hold the cards upside down for you to understand the message, right? I can just simply tell you. So, it feels to me as if you're about to catch a really big break that causes, like, here's the thing, you know, I can talk about, as I was saying earlier, about your survival mode and needing to adjust from survival mode to the King of Pentacles, where you're being more productive, you're thinking about your future. And you might have already been listening to that and be like, all right, that sounds all fine and dandy, Velca, but until like certain things are taken care of, I can't afford to be thinking about my future, right? It's all fine and dandy to talk about this energy you're stepping into, but how do you step into it, right? I do feel as if your spiritual team, and this is more so something that you've been currently dealing with, something that's been looming over your head a little bit. I use the examples of where it's like, you know, you can have student loan debt if you're in America, honey. Do other countries, I'm about to sound real ignorant, other countries don't have like debt. Well, obviously y'all have debt, but like student loans, y'all have student loans? Like, is it really as big of a thing? Anyway, someone can let me know in the comments, I'm sure. But use an example where it's like you have those student loans where it's like you can still live your life. Many people live their entire life without paying them, but it's that looming stress hanging in the back of your head and, you know, over your mind. It's just like, man, you know, it's that stress, right? And I feel like that's where your spiritual team is taking care of that stress. Now, I'm not saying they're gonna just be swiping their card, honey, and be like, oh, good, you know, your student loans are paid off, honey, you know, you're fine. You know, your credit score, wait up, again, do y'all even have credit? Listen, I know I sound like such a typical ignorant American here, but I am so curious because I know outside of America, credit and, girl, I digress. Someone can educate me if they feel like if they're from across the pond there. But do y'all have like credit scores and stuff? I don't, like in my head, I feel like y'all don't, right? Am I crazy in that? Anyways, I'm not saying your spiritual team's gonna just like wake up one day and just, you know, clear out your credit card debt, but it does feel as if they're gonna be addressing specific things in your life where it makes sense where good news would be coming in. Maybe you recently put out an application somewhere where it's like by being accepted to that college, for example, or that job, it then releases so much stress for you about your next few steps forward after the fact. Girl, I told you it's hot here and I'm like, I'm extra dewy, extra damp today. But it does feel like wherever this wind comes in, it allows like you to have like this breath and for you to be like, all right, I have this clean slate here. What can I do with this, right? It's like it goes back to the original when I did your pre-shuffle, that clean slate with that full energy. So what I want to be suggesting for you right now, friend, is that I don't really get you needing to reposition too much in your life, you know, as you keep on moving forward here. Like the only suggestions I would be having for you is Four of Cups, making sure that you don't get too, how do I want to put this here, friend? I want you to make sure that there's certain vices that you might have developed while you're going through your Dante's Inferno, right? While you're just trying to survive. And I feel like some of those vices you might need to look at and be like, all right, is this serving a purpose anymore? Because I'm not going to be that spiritual person where like everyone's always just like shaming you for having a human experience. And I'm just not that person, honey. I used to be an alcoholic. Girl, I've been through life, girl. So I completely understand when people need to do things just to get through it, right? But I want to challenge you going forward, friend, because as you are making, I almost voice cracked there. I'm turning 30 in October, y'all, and I'm still voice cracking. I want you to make a conscious effort as you're adjusting from the survival mode, from being in that Dante's Inferno to the King of Pentacles, of what we were talking about. Start adjusting certain things that make sense, right? So it's like you may have developed certain vices to survive. Do you still need those vices going forward? Does that still have space for your King of Pentacles today? Now, I'm not saying you need to just live like this, fault-free, sin-free life. Again, I don't fall for that type of propaganda, darling. But I want to suggest for you where it's like, maybe there's a couple things that you don't need to carry with you. It's no longer relevant for you anymore. The best example I used to make, still make, is that when I would have roommates and when I would, came out of a cult, honey, like I went through a lot. I went through a lot for a lot of years, traveling around. And so I always had the habit of, my real ones will know, where it's like I would put my suitcase, I had like a 50-pound suitcase, and I would put it in front of my door and other things in front of my door, right? So that way if someone tried to come in, when someone would try to come in, girl, I would hear it, right? And so when I adjusted from that to the life that I live now, it doesn't make sense to me to me locking bathroom doors or putting things in front of my door because no one's here, honey, right? It's just me, myself, and I. And so there's certain things, right? That's such a dramatic example of it there, but there are certain things that you might have developed because you needed to do that to survive, and let's see if you don't need to do that anymore. So I use that example there, but it also could be simply a case where it's like there might be certain people that you talk to simply because they were good distractions, or like there are people that you needed in your life at that point in time, but now that your life is different now, you can't really relate to them and you only talk to them anymore out of obligation. Maybe it's time for you to start detaching yourself from them, and then we can just go into your typical vices, honey, drinking, smoking, whatever it is, right? Again, I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. Just see, time to reevaluate it, right? Having that, doing a quick scan and be like, all right, does this make sense for me right now anymore? All right. And that's the only thing I would be suggesting for you at this time. The only other advice that seems to be popping up here is understanding that you're with this full energy where it's like, well, I guess it feels as if that you have been stripped completely raw of everything that you own. Don't feel as if it's going to take you as long to build it back up, right? Because I'm being shown like ash, like a fire going through a garden, and then there's just ash, but that ash is what, isn't it just like fertilizing, or just like makes the dirt more nutrient rich for the plants after that ash? Like the plants thrive even more after that initial sweep, right? And I feel like that's a little bit of your story. That's the seeds that you planted for your life, the ideals that you want to manifest in your life. You went, that Dante's Inferno wiped it out. Now you have nothing but ash, but when you're growing from that ash, it's going to not only thrive and grow at an exponential rate, but what's going to become of it is a lot more bountiful as well. And so, I don't know, that's the only other thing I would be like, there's really no other critiques I could be giving to you right now, friend, because it's like you made it out of the hard part. Now it's time for you to like, slowly just like let your body relax and, take away the tenseness of your body there. And it's just like getting to this next stage of your life, right? And I want to use the going to the next chapter of your life. It's like starting a whole new book series entirely, starting a whole new saga. I do feel like your life is unrecognizable now from what it was when you started the Dante's Inferno, but I also do know your life is going to be very unrecognizable in the next month, in the next 2 months here, because of that fertile ground from all that ash that was burned away, being placed there. All right. So be willing to bet on yourself, have faith in yourself, and understand that your spiritual team has never abandoned you, darling. Even if it feels like it, they haven't abandoned you. I promise you, you're going to be seeing synchronicities from them very soon.